Hello, James here, and welcome to my podcast, The James Cast. What are you listening to? Well, this is POWERWORKs, also put up on PODAHOLIKS. What's a little different here? As you know, you get a little bit of the pre-roll. Glenn Power and I talk cars, and as always, we have some opinions. We don't often agree, but also we kind of dig into what's going on in the world of repair and help you understand what's going on when your car is in that shop. What are the issues the mechanics are dealing with? Why does it cost so much? Etc., etc., etc. A great thing we're going to talk about is working with all these new sensors and the way the sensors need to match up with things. And that means putting in codes into control units and, nightmare. Tedious work. It's going to cost you a fortune because of the time that it actually takes to do. The piece is not so expensive. Hey, that and a lot more coming up right now on POWERWORKs. Enjoy the podcast.
Well, at least I turned on the recorder. That's a good start.
Red light.
Red light is on.
That's it. This one will episode 65, but there's 400 that we didn't record.
Hey, no, but you know what? This is actually kind of cool because Andrew goes in today and he goes to me, James, we got a problem in iTunes. And I'm going, what? And he goes, yeah, they're seasoned. There's season 1, season 2. It's making it hard to find shows. And I'm going, really? So of course I'm thinking, nah, how could that be? So turns out, I guess I did click seasons on in some of the earlier versions, but the only way to turn it off is to go into each single recording, see if it's there and take it off, which is fine. It's going to be an hour of my life to do, but it makes it easier to search. But in the process of talking about that, him and Jenna have both said this. They love the POWERWORK shows. And while they love doing their own shows and while they love listening to other podcasts, they love listening to your shows. And they just said the flow, the humor, the information. They like listening to POWERWORKs.
Maybe they feel sorry for me. It's like sort of, feel sorry for me and they just want to pick me up.
Maybe, but I also think that, you've got about 60 odd shows. I think the number is 60. I haven't looked up to see recently, but I think it's 61 or 62 shows. Yeah. That's a lot of time doing it. That's a lot of time in. The flow is there. The structure is there.
I enjoy doing it, and I am very proud of it. Now, I'm not the kind of person to stand on the rooftop shouting, everyone listen to my show, but I am very proud. Like if somebody was to say to me, they listen to it, it's different with the radio. So I wasn't me.
Yeah.
Do you know what, what I mean by that? I was a bit sort of, can't say pork, can't say this, can't say they're no good, and can't have it. You don't really have a character. Mm. Well, I that was how I.
There's so much restrictions.
I could have interpreted it and the wrong way. Of course, I understand, but I'm proud of these. I'm really proud of them. I think they're good, and I think somebody learns something, at least one person, I would think, every week.
Well, you know what? We've got almost over 20,000 listeners between the two platforms they're put up. Then the LinkedIn folks who listen, because we post everything up there. The folks who are grabbing it from Instagram. We've got a good stable of listeners who are waiting for that content. And you see if they want the content. So I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And like you said, as I keep saying, there's a lot of things that unify people around the world. There's a lot of commonalities around the world, but transportation is the commonality, whether it be a motorcycle or a small car, a big car, it's still cars.
We're in such a strange time for the whole transportation industry, aren't we now as well? Like obviously aviation's dead.
Yeah.
And there's so much more localized, focused sort of rent a car for an hour transport, like pay per minute cars, like it's a crazy time. So
and just understanding what's going on with those vehicles. Why is it making this sound? Why is it doing this? Why I got to get something fixed. What is that thing? How does that work? And why do I need that? And why is it important? And what new, used, borrowed?
I like the idea. I like to think that maybe somebody listens in and thinks, oh, well, if I ever do get stuck, there is somewhere I could go for potentially a straight answer. Or just to give you that confidence, it's like anything, you've got a guy for your water for the house, and you've got a guy at the butchers, and you've got a guy in the, where you will rent a car from on holiday, and you just feel confident that man or woman is going to be there to deal with stuff that you've got no idea about. It's horrible going. The rental car's a great idea, a great example. You've got to go and fill paperwork out.
Oh man.
And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Do I really need this? Which license do I use? And knowing the person there.
Get the insurance is my advice to everyone. When they say, oh, do you want to get the roadside assistance and the extra little insurance? And you're kind of going, it's another like 20 dirhams, or in case if I was a Canada, another $20 a day. Do I really want to spend $20? Yes, because I've used it.
Knowing that you've got somebody that can just talk you through that.
Yeah.
Even if it's to point out basic, simple things that you really think to yourself afterwards, I really should have known that.
Yeah.
It's better to do that with someone you're comfortable with. So yeah, I'm sure there's people that get something from this. Absolutely. Even if it puts them to sleep.
Welcome on that note to POWERWORKs, the podcast on Podaholiks, coming to you from the podcast studio. Downtown Dubai's Rove Hotel is where that's located. For the next little bit, we got automobiles on the mind.
Yeah.
Glenn Power, POWERWORKs Automotive here. We're going to demystify. We're going to have some fun. Talk about Colin's cars. I don't understand why he's got another. I think he was just talking to me about the MG. I don't know if he's got a new one or.
No, it's the one. It's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Finally working.
What an epic that was.
He's going to sell it.
I don't know how. I mean, if you could make Christmas crackers big enough, you could put it in one of those for somebody.
I mean, how long has this MG been sitting on, sitting there waiting?
There was a 5-month back order for the part from SAIC.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And at this point, I see so many MGs around, and I look at them, but I hear this story, and I just think, okay, there's a lot of Chinese cars out there, and I get it, and they've partnered, and Volvo and stuff is all involved also with these Chinese cars, and I see the Geelys, but after hearing this experience with the MG, I don't know if I want to go down that route. No,
that was a worry, and the real kicker to the whole story was they originally quoted as a price.
Yeah. We need to give the backstory a little bit here. So Colin bought this MG, looked like it was a great deal, super fantastic price, gets it into you, then realizes, okay, there's some wiring, electricity issues, there's a few parts.
Yeah, I think the original problem, was that it looked like, and this was all sort of from what we could see, so it was very circumstantial, but it certainly looked like the transmission control unit had some issue, or the transmission had an issue, and the wiring had been checked. And at some stage along that, whether deliberately or by accident in what they were doing, the wiring had been pulled out of the socket and then put back in the wrong place. Finding a wiring diagram for that car was almost impossible. No, it wasn't almost, it was impossible.
And they wouldn't give it to you at the dealer because, that's
well, they would, but they wanted 3,000 dirhams to do a check on the car because they'd not seen it for service in the last 12 months.
Why do they care, though? It's not their car. What do they really care?
Oh, it's just the way it is, So, same issue everywhere you go.
Okay.
So that's not new
business.
To me. Yeah. So we fixed that bit. But then when we fixed that bit, we figured out why they'd done that. And the reason they'd done that was it bypassed and managed to... very clever in what they'd done in the end, actually. But it was preventing the faults that were there with the ABS actually causing an issue on the drive of the car. Okay. So the ABS was faulty, then traction control was faulty, and there were many other faults. But now we got it to be active again, and so it wouldn't accelerate from the line because it thought the wheels were slipping. It was kicking the traction control in. So you'd have to drive the car for about 20 minutes to get the hard fault, so that then all those systems would be turned off before you could then drive it.
Okay.
Which wasn't the case previously. So we then went back in and checked it out, and the ABS control unit was faulty.
Man.
Now, we did a little bit of research, and on these models, 550, 650, I think there's a 350, a 6, which is what this is, I think. I can't remember now. I tried to put it out of my mind. But it was a known issue.
Which did the dealer never shared this? We say, hey, we know that this is a known issue.
No, I found
nice.
So I found a second-hand parts place in the UK, and the guy was straight up with me, and he said to me that we don't get these in the UK. We don't have that model in the UK, and he knew way too much about MGs, anorak, you know, like, whoa, don't want to go for a pint with you at the end of the day. But no, he's really helpful. And he said, look, we don't get that model here, but from what I can see, it's the same as the one we do get here, which is this, and there is a known issue on these, and this is the problem. But anyway, we then confirmed that was the case. We went to the agency, who initially were quite helpful, but then ultimately they were let down. They were let down by manufacturer, which is SAIC in China. But in the time it took from them understanding they'd been let down, they kept making false promises to us, and then there was some internal goings on which were a little bit unethical, where they were trying to offer us kind of solutions that, let's say, wouldn't have been great, and we ultimately, Colin obviously as a consumer, the end user, he's the one who paid the price in time off the road, but obviously
because that vehicle goes off the road for a long time, and then it ended up over 1,000 dirhams more than they'd originally quoted. It took them 5 months, or almost 5 months, to get the part. At that point, if you're an automobile owner and your vehicle has been off the road for 5 months, you've just given up. You've pushed it to the wrecker and said, "Thank you very much. This is a bad memory, and I'm going to tell everyone I know not to get this car."
I've been involved with 2 situations similar to that in the UK when I was in a dealership, and one was a newish car, quite new, and there was an issue. It wasn't something that was ever seen previously, and it was on an EOS, and VW, after we looked at it, they sent the factory technicians to look at it, and the roofs were made in a factory in Portugal, not by VW but for VW, and they sent one of their technicians over.
That's a lot of investment. And
it only went on for 3 weeks, and then we were given money to purchase the car back. The vehicle went to VW back in Germany, and they gave them a brand new car.
Wow.
No questions asked. Very, very sorry. Never pay for a service again, etc. And that's customer service. That was the way it was. Many reasons for that. They prided themselves on it. That was clear to us as technicians. We were very involved in that. But also, they didn't want that getting out. You know, that story in the Daily Mail is sensationalized to VW. EOS roof falls off. Which is not what happened. It was literally not just a creak. It was creaking. The customer wasn't happy, and rightly so. So VW gave them a new one. They were happy with it, and we saw it for service every year. Every year.
And
after
that person's going to be talking about, hey, these guys did right by me, and when I need to get another car, I'm going to get I'm going to buy I'm going to buy another. They still make the EOS?
No, they don't. Which I like that car.
I saw one the other day, and I saw it scooting by me, and I went, that's really different looking on the road. I want one of those.
I did. And I did the course for them, like all of the convenience, electronics, the roofs, was a specialised course, and I enjoyed working on them. But
too bad.
But you know, here, and you know, the strange thing is MG, the Chinese brought it back, SAIC brought it back, and
it's not the MG though.
Sort of revamped the brand, so to speak, but it's not.
It's got the badge. It's the MG badge.
Yeah, it's the MG, and the worst part about it is, you know, the showroom isn't bad, and you know, the workshop is what it is, but the showroom isn't bad. They've obviously invested a fair amount of money into it, but that was just really not good. And
so the car's ready to go now, though. You've got the new. It's gone.
Colin had it back, and it was dry. We picked it up and drove it, and then the ABS light came back on again, but it turned out that one of the wheel speed sensors was damaged, which we couldn't have tested before because the system wasn't working. So,
is that an easy fix for the wheel speed sensor?
We took it straight back, and then they just put a sensor on there. To be fair, they should have picked that up on their test drive, which is why they were quite sort of sorry. There's just pay the cost price for the sensor sort of thing.
Maybe they did pick it up and thought, it's just an anomaly.
Just want rid of the car quick. And then there was a problem with the tire pressure sensors again. Probably just because the car's been sat, not used. The batteries only last for so long. So
I still don't get that one. That's a gripe I have for all manufacturers. There's no reason for those not to last longer.
Do you know what the strange thing is? And I know, you know, it's when that system first came out, it was always radio sensors with a battery in that give a signal to a wheel. But very, very quickly after that, very quickly, at VW, they went to an ABS system, which calculates the loss of pressure translated to a loss of rolling diameter.
Okay.
Of course, you know, you blow up a balloon, it gets bigger, right? So you lose rolling diameter. Measuring the wheel speed, you can determine roughly, quite accurately actually, the tire pressure. Now, just go with that.
Yeah.
You're going to have ABS sensors on cars no matter what. And it's literally one more control unit, and not even that. It's probably just a code. You can just write the code into the ABS. That's all it is. You know, you don't need the control unit when it's not radio censored. So I don't know why people, if you've got to have the system, don't do that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's very, very strange. But hey, it is what it is. It's one of the worst parts about that system is they break, and people don't want to spend X amount of $1,000 fixing it. Invariably, you have to change all the sensors if one fails, or you'd be silly not to, like a headlight bulb, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, do I really want to spend $2,000 there plus the labour plus the, because you've got to then pair them up. It's not as simple as just plug and play. You've got to take the wheel off, take the tyre off, remove the old sensor, put the new sensor in, take the code number off of the sensor, mark that down on a piece of paper as front left. Then you've got to put them all back on the car. So that's 4, often 5 with a spare. And then you've got to go in and write into the control unit, well, F1, 2, 3, 4, XY is on front left. And then go through all of those to go, and then it...
So it's labor intensive. It really is.
It just genuinely takes time. You know, that's a couple of hours work. So you're probably talking between 200 and 400 dirhams there. And then you've got they're talking maybe 300, 400, 500 each.
Yeah.
You got 5 of those to pay. Most people say, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that's not something I want to pay for. And I'll just check my tyre pressures. Well, of course they don't. And tyres are so critical. TPMS now, tyre pressure monitoring, is legally required on all cars. Was it post 2012, I think?
Really?
So in Europe, and I think in North America,
if you don't have tire pressure monitoring,
every new car has to have
makes sense.
Yeah, it's a totally non-negotiable point. You have to have the right tyre pressure. A 3% difference in tyre pressures can totally make a huge difference to how the car brakes, handles, corners.
I think people forget about that. They forget about the braking. They forget about, cornering and turning, and with the different tire pressure, you got different dimension of the tire then suddenly on the road, and it can be, in some situations, life and death.
No, yeah, quite definitely. Like, you can't overstate that. There's the only connection between you and the road is the tires. The wheels are no good without tires on them because, well, we've all built go-karts with wooden wheels and pram wheels on them and stuff like that, and slid around corners thinking it's fun, but it's not fun doing it in a 2-ton car.
Yeah.
So, it's genuinely non-negotiable with tires. Like, you really have to keep on top of the pressures. There's no point kidding yourself. But people...
Well, how hard is it even just to go around with a tire pressure gauge, the old school one? I mean, I keep one in my Jeep. I go and check the pressure all the time. I'm like, every day I'm checking that pressure. If I get a deviation, you sort it out. But even when you're getting petrol, how hard is it to just, hey, every week I'm just going to top up once a week?
These guys that work at the petrol stations filling us tanks with fuel for us here in the UAE. Now, I'm not entirely sold on the system. I've been here 8 years, and I think it's much quicker when you go home and self-serve and pay inside. I prefer it, but it works here. Now, oftentimes, especially when they're not busy, they will offer to do the tyre pressures for you, and you can give them a bit of a tip for helping you out there. And for me, that's really something that everybody can say, yes, okay, thank you, and here's 20 dirhams for your trouble. Thank you very much, because you've probably just saved me 20 dirhams on this tank of fuel by inflating my tyres to the right pressure. It's genuinely that different. So, but I'm a strong believer in, if you've got children, especially if you've got children, actually, just Friday morning, just take them with you, fill up the tank, check the tyre pressures, show them how to use the gauge, maybe bring it back and wash it on the drive or whatever it is, and show them how important it is to maintain these things. It's not always possible now on newer cars to show them how to check the oil level. And
that's the other thing.
But things like tyre pressures will always be... Yeah. I've said something there, no, but for the foreseeable future will be something that we can adjust ourselves.
Right, exactly. You know, and the other side of it is with the old full service stations, we only have really full service stations here. Although, so that being said, going to Abu Dhabi, there is some self-serve options. There's a guy standing there in case you need help.
Yeah.
But
ADNOC ones used to be all, you had to pay for the filling, then they stopped it again, didn't they?
Yeah. And so I always like the full service stations when the guy would say, do you want me to check the tire pressure? You want to check the oil? Check your oil level. And, the guy's got the thing filling up. He's checked the tire pressure, check the oil, but it's down. I'll clean the windshield, boom, and it's done. And you leave and you're kind of going, all right, this is good. I like this.
Yep. It makes so much sense.
And then you make sure you got levels are good, tires are good, full tank of gas, boom, you're ready to rock.
Yeah, I don't, we can't overstate the importance of tire pressures, really. We genuinely can't. I mean, Colin, their fleet, we've had it a few times. We've sort of renewed the initiative, but it's like, bring the vans in 4 or 5 a day,
really, and just check everything
just every single day, and we'll just check the tire pressure, even just the tire pressures. And I think we've got to a point now where they've now trained their staff to do that themselves and adjust it themselves to save time, and it's so important. These in a climate like ours here, it's very important because it doesn't take much for a tyre to blow out, as we've all seen a tyre.
I saw one yesterday.
We've all seen it.
I was, I'm driving in the Jeep and I'm a little hypersensitive to smells, right? Because, it's an old vehicle, and I'm driving. I smell that smell of burning rubber, and I'm going, I'm looking, so I'm looking. I'm thinking, I hope it's not my vehicle. I really hope it's
about to come off.
It's like, I hope it's not mine. And then I see this Audi. I think it was an A6, and they're still moving. They're probably doing 40 kilometers an hour, but they've got the right rear tire is blown out and smoking. And they're doing the right thing. They're pulling over. They're still moving. And I was wondering why they were still moving. It seemed they were pulling over where it was a little shady. I thought, fair move. I don't know if there's a kid in the back. And you could see the person was, looking straight ahead and holding on to that steering wheel for dear life, because it obviously felt pretty weird. But it was smoking, like really, truly.
Yeah.
It could have been on fire.
Yeah, it's not. It's not fun. It certainly isn't fun, and it's something you can't really prepare yourself for, because even if you could teach yourself or be taught how to drive a car in the event of a blowout, the actual shock of it and getting over that, and then the time it takes to respond to that, the damage is done. So, yeah, definitely tire pressure is a big one, and I think it's worth that 30 minutes on a Friday morning.
Yeah.
Just going to the petrol station. Air's free here.
That's the other thing.
Pay like £1 for 2 minutes of air in the UK.
The same in parts of the US, Canada as well. I think there's places where it's free and there's places where it's not, but it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
And water, if you really.
Exactly.
I saw a guy yesterday as well, tow truck guy, filling up 5.5 liter things of water, and I said to him, I said, for drinking or for cars? Oh, for cars. And I'm just shaking my head, going, oh man.
Yeah. No, those guys see it all the time.
Yeah.
It's really not worth skimping on tire pressures, for sure.
The other thing that I've had to avail of the service, but you said this is big numbers right now. Car batteries are just falling. They're just not working, and it doesn't seem to be tied to any particular car brand, from Rolls Royces through to Wranglers. Batteries are just packing it in. And I know in the case of my own vehicle, there was no telltale signs. It just was working one day and the next day and not working at all. And it's funny because I then thought, well, that's really weird. And then I reminded my wife, said, well, remember, 18 months ago, was heading out, was picking someone up, stopped the vehicle, person gets in, click.
Yeah.
And I said, battery was working perfectly up to that moment.
Yeah. I mean, I can only put it down to the fact that we've gone through the whole lockdown and schools closed and everything. Now everything all of a sudden is open again.
Maybe.
And people have started to use their cars, and things that were a little bit tired have now failed. I can't put it down to anything else, because normally the peak of the summer is the time.
Yeah.
because the heat just kills them, extra resistance on the circuits, and it just kills the batteries. But we've got over that now. We're sort of cooling down every day, but it's only a week since school's opened, and people are going back to school and using the cars more frequently. So, yeah, it was.
And I guess the stress on those cars, so they're now stopped and they're waiting in lines to do the drop off, and the batteries being tested for air conditioning and stuff.
Exactly, it's a difficult. And it still is hot. Let's not fool ourselves. It's still getting to 40 degrees in the day, so it still is hot, which is definitely a contributing factor. But yeah, we had a bad one, and then there's 4 batteries in the same day. One of them has a drain, so that one is explained.
What does that mean? What is that?
So basically, it's something we call it a parasitic drain. Something is staying on a system or some function of the vehicle which should switch itself off isn't. So it's staying on and causing the battery to drain out. So the usual sort of
lights
issues are lights for in glove boxes. This is a Porsche Cayman, so the lights for the hood under the bonnet and under the boot lid.
Fan maybe.
The fan's not going, but we do get them sometimes with fans. And what happens with fans again in the summer? They're running flat out with cooling the engine and cooling for the condenser for the AC, and they just get hotter and hotter and hotter. They'll short themselves to the point where they just stay on. And then the switch goes off, or the control unit normally these days, but it stays on. They just powered up, and they will drain batteries, but that's an obvious. You can see that, you can hear it. So radios sometimes, radios often.
And I always think those things don't suck back so much electricity, but
yeah, if they don't switch off, we used to get them on VWs where we call it the S contact in the ignition. So you turn the key to the engine off. Now, in the Wrangler, you've got accessory position if you go all the way back. So American cars have, certainly all the Chryslers, you have accessory past ignition. Whereas on other vehicles, you have off, then one click right is position 1 or accessory, then 2 is full ignition or start. Everything will work in 0 if it's already been cycled on and off. But as soon as you pull the key out, there's a contact inside which disconnects everything. But sometimes they would fail. So you pull the key out, but everything stays on. And if you've been used to just pulling the key out and not turning things off manually, then the next time you go to get in the car in the morning, it'll be flat. But there's relatively easy ways to check those things. It's not a problem. The only issue I had with the battery I was changing yesterday on the Beetle was I arrived, having picked the battery up from the supplier. Rushing because it was a lady. She was late for work. It was audit. Always important. It was audit day,
and batteries only go when you really need your vehicle.
So
it's guaranteed.
She's in the parking in the bottom of the building, and she's got to get to work for the audit. And I mean, in fairness, her husband was there, and he said, "Well, you could take my car." And she said, "No, I don't like it." So
okay, well,
so
there's a little bit of dispute within the family here.
There was an out, but so I arrive. I've never been to the house before. They've been regular customers for a while, but I've never been to the house. So I'm in Jumeirah Village Triangle, and not the easiest place to navigate around when you don't know. No. It's not as bad as Jumeirah Village Circle, but at least we were getting there, and I arrived at the pin drop. Sent a message saying, "I think I'm here." Literally, as the ticks turned to blue on WhatsApp, my phone rings. I answered it. It was my parts guy. "Sir, I'm giving you the wrong battery." I'm on my way with the right one, 20 minutes away. So I thought, well, this is embarrassing, because straight away I'm thinking, well, I should have checked that and I would have known. But I didn't check it, and I trusted him, and I worked with him for long enough to think that I could. But again, it was my fault. I can't blame anyone else. So what do? So I just did what they taught me to do on Monty Python, just run away. So I just ran away. So I got in I turned the steering wheel around, went down a side street, and thought, well, if I say if she comes out of the building and says I can't see, I say, the Google Maps pin. This bloody Google Maps, it's took me to the wrong place.
Go down the wrong road, they're knocking. Hey, we see you though.
So I go down this road and then pull a U-turn to go back round, and there's a tree. There's trees all down the street, and there's one overhanging the side. And I thought, yeah, it's okay, I can cut that. It's just two little branches. And as I hit just literally, there's like one leaf just comes up the screen, and it exposed like a trunk-sized branch that was hanging out.
Oh, man. Camouflaged.
Straight into the top of the windscreen, smashed the windscreen, dented the roof, pulled the seal out. So I was fuming. I mean, again, no one else's fault but mine. First of all, why am I running away?
Yeah.
I could have just said, sorry, the battery will be 20 minutes. While I'm at it, while I'm removing the old one and cleaning up, the new one will have arrived. But second of all, and I was, it's now my fault that the windscreen's broken.
Yeah.
So that was not great. But, it's only a 600 dirham repair.
Only. Oh, man.
Yeah. So, I need to change about 70 batteries to make that back.
Batteries are a big market. I mean, that's the other side of it. But
yeah, but anything like batteries. So batteries, and we talked about tyres already. Yeah. Tyres and batteries they're always a distress purchase unless you're, putting a crazy sound system in your car or camping gear and you want a second battery, or you're putting uprated wheels on there and you want to buy tyres for that.
Yeah.
They're always a distress purchase, so that drives prices down all the time. So many people sell them. They're very, very common to get from many, many manufacturers. So there's no margin in changing them. It's just
like a service thing.
It's all about the customer service. You've got to give the service of doing that, because changing tyres and changing batteries, the customer knows you've fixed their car.
Yeah.
Because they had a genuine issue before and now they haven't got it.
Yeah.
You don't get that with a service, really. With an oil change, nobody knows any difference.
Hey, speaking of oil change, the old yellow Jeep outside, I was driving it today and I was trying to remember last time. I mean, I know I had an oil change. I can't remember last time I had it serviced. It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing,
with the COVID and all that, because I typically drive the other one. We don't drive the yellow one too much. But I was driving it today going, I don't think I've had this Jeep serviced in a year. Like, I was legitimately trying to figure out when it was last serviced. Oh, and yeah, I know that's a really bad thing. Yeah. Got to bring it in and have a service.
Quick.
Well, I did slam on the brakes and all that to make sure it was right. The brakes are working great. That's so good. Tires seem to be okay.
That's all right.
Levels are all good. Oil it looks like honey, so it's, not thick like honey, but the color of a nice maple syrup. So I thought, so we're all good, but, and it's just been sitting around really and driven once in a while. But I thought, I still need to have this thing darn serviced, because I hate to get a surprise. You're going, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want a surprise.
No. I was reading up, and I threw this one in the notes, speaking of surprises, that Renault is going to make the next generation of the Nissan Micra. Both of those companies not necessarily doing as well as they could be doing these days, but I thought, Renault making the Nissan Micras.
Yeah, Renault Nissan's a weird one for me.
I don't get it.
No, I've never understood it. And I didn't really know about it, but I always remember that the Renault dealership was next to the Nissan one everywhere I went. Yeah. No matter where in the country, like we'd do our summer holidays would be in the UK. So but everywhere you went, the Renault and the Nissan were next to each other. Same in my local town. I think, it's weird.
Yeah.
Why that? But, Renault of the two, I would class it as the lesser.
Yeah, that's what I always think.
Quality of the two brands.
Good French brand, but
nothing. Just I'm just saying compared to the Nissan.
I think it's just the brand image. When you think Nissan, it's Nissan, and Renault is, it's Renault. It's good, but it's not Nissan.
But the Micra is the entry level budget Nissan,
smallest thing you can get.
Yeah, so maybe it makes sense for Renault to make them. I mean, I definitely won't be owning one. Well, I think there is absolutely nobody that's going to prize any money out of my pocket to own a Nissan Micra built by Renault.
Well, I thought it was interesting as I was reading this article, and I'm reading it, I'm going, hold on. The plant anyway in France where they do make them, they're closing it down and they're moving things around. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't bode well for anything. I mean, interesting. I'd like to be sitting in that boardroom and hear how they plan to make this work. And I just thought, you got a tried and true plant. You're closing that down to do something else, and you're still going to make the cars though.
Yeah.
You outsource it somewhere else.
Strange. The car production these days is It's very strange. I honestly don't. The Renault Nissan has always been strange. Always been a strange one for me. I mean, all the people to get into bed with, Renault, French brand, Citroen, Peugeot, struggling, let's say. Nissan, all the Japanese brands.
Yeah.
And they go, but hey, it is what it is, and they obviously do all right. They're not doing. I mean, they're doing bad now, but you're comparing that to
everyone's kind of have some issues and trying to figure out where you're going to go and whatnot. It's just weird. It's just a weird thing. And the one thing about the Nissans, especially once you start moving up the ladder a little bit, like I don't know. I don't even see a lot of Micras around. Maybe more in North America, maybe more in Europe.
Yeah, in Europe, I think they'll be popular as a small car.
Nice and small. As you start getting up into the Ultimas and the Maximas, they all kind of have a nice similar look. Like I love the look of a Maxima. I mean, I'd buy one of those in a heartbeat. They just have a great sporty look. So, but the Ultima's kind of going down that route, and you can kind of see the design influences that are following through the lines. They've borrowed a card from Volkswagen, I think, because Volkswagen does that really nicely. That different vehicles, but there is a lot of accents and a lot of similarities.
You just see the breed.
Yeah. So I wonder if Nissan's trying to do that. And I mean, the Maxima's a great car. That's fast. That's a bullet. And
you get the V6 in those.
Looks kind of cool. I don't know.
No, they're not. They're not for me. I mean, one thing I will say is that the new Nissan Patrol's a little bit of a letdown in the looks department. But then again, what were they going to do with it?
Yeah,
it was a big box. Basically, I mean, it just to me,
better LEDs. That's basically, but it's just weird.
It's strange, and it looks very not that it's a bad thing, but it looks a lot like an Infiniti.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if you take maybe the next Infiniti QX80 or whatever it is that's the same, it's QX80, the same as the Patrol. Maybe it's going to be totally different, but it just looks a lot like the Infiniti, as though they've said, "Oh well, we'll just borrow some bits from those guys next door." And
it would not surprise me as they're trying to look at this. Maybe we're going to see a nice jump, but it's it changed the grill a little bit, and I don't know. It's just. I kind of like the rugged look a little bit more. So I liked where the Patrols were, and now
I preferred them as they were before.
It doesn't look like something I want to take off road. Of course you could, but it just doesn't have that feel to me.
Those Super Safaris and the Safaris, they were. I mean, shocking for the environment. I mean,
terrible.
They
still make the Super Safari.
Yeah, they continue to pollute the world that we live in, but they're all right to look at, and they do the job that they're meant to do, and they're not too frilly. There's no just unnecessary trim.
Yeah,
they're just a car.
Yeah,
and the big.
you need to own shares in Enoch and EPCO or Shell and BP.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember this when Classic Call came into the show. When we were doing call, and anyone wants to send in their thing. I know Joey Woo does that. Oh, by the way, update with Joey Woo. He's coming around to the wing. So slowly, I send him another picture of a wing, and he says, "Please, no. Maybe I'll put one on my lawnmower." And it's like, no, everyone needs them on a car. Anyway, so then he's doing the commute to work. He sends me a picture of a vehicle that's got a little wing on it, and I think, his mind is now, it's coming slowly.
Well, what if we did him a chrome wing with wood insert?
You see,
wood panel trim.
There we go. Put that on the Subaru?
Yeah.
I think you're nice ball set.
And get him around to it.
Oh, you see? Except it's his wife's car. But anyways, I'm sure that she's probably into it.
She's fine with that.
Tracy, she's into it. Hey,
if it's already on there, you can't take it off because there's holes in the boot. So
you're done for.
Leave it on now. You got to fully commit here, and then you're all right.
I think the true seller of this will be Wild Bill, who's Tracy's dad. If Wild Bill gives it the thumbs up, I think everyone will go for it. So I got to start working on Wild Bill.
There you go then.
Yeah, I mean, this is a man who barbecues barefoot and a pair of board shorts on, and he's working a full barbecue with steaks, sausages, spitting everywhere. He's wild.
Hardcore.
Yeah, hardcore.
Yeah.
Where were we when I interrupted this whole conversation? We were talking Nissan, we were talking Renault, and then I have no idea.
Something about Joey Woo Woo.
that was it. So now we got that. Oh man, I totally knocked us off track.
That's all right. It's good. It's good to know. I mean, I sent you the video of the Grand Wagoneer the other day.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. Absolutely.
Interesting.
And then they've got the new Grand Wagoneer that they're coming out with, which it kind of looks like the Patrol, and that, you know, the concept of it. But where's the wood paneling? Like, come on,
where's
people.
the shag pile carpet?
You need that too.
It's like Austin Powers all over in there. That was I can do without the wood panel and the stainless steel everywhere, but the shag pile inside there, I mean, wow.
Hey, and don't forget, good old Mr. Myers there is a Toronto boy, which is very close to where Joey Woo comes from. Yeah. So you can see it's like, this shag pile carpet.
The best thing about that is like that car, imagine that car. You've probably seen it. That car, right? So you're rolling around in Toronto, Canada, and you've got boots full of snow, and you get in there, and that carpet's going to stink like a wet dog.
The thing is, in winter, you have this big rubber mat that you put in that's got a lip on it, so all the water and junk collects in that, because otherwise, it soaks down the carpet. And don't forget, you got the salt, and so you've got this. It just destroys your car. It really does.
It was quite special to see, actually. Never really seen one in the flesh here before, so it was
it was beautiful. I mean, that was pristine condition. What a lovely Wagoneer. I'd own that in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I wouldn't bat an eye. Anytime you can put wood paneling on something like that, and that's just lovely. Bucket seat too, right? A nice bench seat seat inside of that thing. I don't think it was buckets.
Oh yeah, big, huge,
big long bench,
sofa in the front.
Yeah. So that's so you can have your kids and have your wife beside you. You got your arm out.
See, anyone driving that car, right? I always imagine the middle seat is the beer cooler.
The beer cooler.
Yeah. I always imagine it's the beer cooler, and then Hillbilly Jim or whatever is just driving down the road. I mean, it's an absolute massive vehicle. You could have your moonshine in the back. It's huge.
I always say to my wife, I just want to have a nice bench seat so that I can just have one arm on the wheel, driving, rodeo. Got my arm around my woman, and there we go. We're just driving.
Yeah, my woman. This is very woke of you, James.
There's nothing politically correct there.
Yes, please send comments to Andrew at Nexus.
DigiGeekster, just fire that all out there. I'm sure he's saying the same thing. Yeah, exactly what he wants. Guy's a Spurs fan, whatever that means. Anyway,
okay, quiet.
Yeah, no, that was wonderful. And the new one, we'll see. It'll be that same time they're talking about the prototype of the new Wagoneer. They're talking about the electric Wrangler. So.
Yeah, which I understand. Why not?
It looked kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's all of a sudden stopped, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Like everyone was bringing them out,
and now they're
kind of. And I think there's probably a reason for that, and it's down to cost of raw material, I imagine. Also, what's the point? Because we're all going hydrogen, and also, we can. I mean, take for example. Somebody like, we just talked about the Nissan Micra, right?
Yeah.
Which is sort of your entry-level Nissan. They can't make that electric and still keep it entry-level price.
Yeah. And
not yet.
And that little entry-level priced Micra, if they were to turn to electric, what's the range going to be? Because it's already so small and so light, and that's what makes it work. What are you talking, 100 kilometers? Like, no, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, there's it's a strange. I mean, there's nothing really coming out. I mean, the biggest sort of news I can see in the electric, on the EV side of things, this sort of past few days was when Elon Musk went to the VW facility and drove the ID3 and ID4 with Herbert Diess, who's the CEO at VW, and they drove around in the IDs. And it was funny because the ID3, they launched it basically saying enjoy being at the top while you can, Mr. Musk, because we're on our way. And and it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me in the slightest if there's not a collaboration of some description there. Certainly to produce them in America. I think Elon Musk has shown how much clout and stroke he has politically and economically in the way he was like, we ain't stopping for your lockdown.
Yeah.
We'll have our own precautions and procedures in place. But
Well, it's in
we
California.
need to keep things going, and we're going to open our factories and we're going to continue production, and come and stop us then, because I'll just move everything out of the country.
That's what he had in California. He said, no, you got to have these things. He said, well, we'll just move to another state where
Just
the
go to
restrictions work
Virginia
better.
or wherever we need to go. Yeah.
Move to Wyoming. There we go.
You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a case of VW want to produce batteries for their cars.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it in North America, so they don't have to ship them, because shipping batteries is just totally uneconomical.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk, not that he would be that kind of person, but he could pretty much say, well, if anyone's producing batteries here, I'm having no part of it. Otherwise, it's not happening.
Absolutely. And hey, I want to get maybe we can share some propriety on our side and your side. We can collaborate,
which is great for where it goes forward. Then,
well, wouldn't you? You'd like to think that Elon Musk is looking at what they're doing and he's going, well, that's a really good idea. We didn't go that route. I want to learn more about that. Now, how can we tweak our own system? And that's when you say, hey, look, I want to buy in. And why wouldn't you do that?
Well, let's fantasy predict what's going to happen. 5 years time, VW continue to produce electric vehicles, but they call them the Tesla. So it's the VW Tesla, or the VW Elon, or the VW Musk, or whatever it wants to be. And
I think there's going to be more of a collaboration for
Tesla
sure.
are producing moon buggies and Mars rovers on Mars because they've landed, and they're not coming back because the planet's had its time, and they're gonna move on to the red planet. I think that's where he's at. That's where he's at. He's going back home. All those people that say he's an alien, they're actually going to get there. They're actually going to get some kind of evidence for that when he actually lives on Mars.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
So we had talking of conspiracy theories. Something worth mentioning. In the UK, there was like a children's entertainer / artist called Neil Buchanan, right?
Okay.
And he did like a show called Art Attack, and he was just really good at drawing and making stuff with household objects. And then you've heard of Banksy.
Uh-huh.
So the famous guy Banksy.
Yeah.
So somebody, I don't know how or why or who or when, but has started the conspiracy theory with a few little bits of evidence, if you want to call it that it's this children's entertainer really that's doing it, and it's not anyone really mysterious or amazing. It's just some guy who wants to get back on TV. So, if conspiracy theories can go that low,
it only needs a little bit of possibility for a conspiracy theory to work. I think Banksy's awesome that people generally just don't know who the guy is.
Yeah, which is great these days.
Or gal. It could be a woman, but I think it's a guy. But
amazing these days, right?
Yeah.
Like, to keep a secret like that.
Like, how does that work?
I know. Amazing. I mean, you can't even keep a new car model a secret.
No.
But there's a guy out there, and he or she have been graffitiing walls left, right, and centre around the UK and other parts of the world as well, totally in secret.
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to end off with the coolest vehicle that I saw. Historically speaking, the Liat Helica, 1921. Only 30 of these French vehicles made. Basically, it's a vehicle with a helicopter propeller.
Why not?
Only made 30. A little dangerous.
On the front.
On the front to boot.
Yeah. On the front.
It looks cool though. They a variety of designs, but the guy was thinking it didn't really work.
I don't know why. I mean, why would you think it would work? I mean, it's not even on the back.
Can you imagine?
It's like, I know, at least if it's on the back, it's like one of those boats that you see in the swamps in Florida.
Well, there's another one of those. I didn't put it in our notes. I actually put it in the Tech Talk notes. But there's an electric boat that is out now. Let me call up those notes. But the Helica guy, he obviously figured it wouldn't work because eventually he gave up and he only made 30 of them. But this boat is pretty darn impressive. And it is, I'm just looking for it here. And it is, I was wondering if it was a Kickstarter. No. I'm just looking for it if I can find, oh, here it is. So this boat, it has your typical boat, looks like your cruiser. It's the electric speedboat. It's out of Switzerland. It's debuting in Switzerland. And not only does it have your typical boat, it's also a hydrofoil. The thing goes 100 kilometers an hour. It'll do 100 kilometers an hour with the hydrofoils that come up. Great stability. 100 times a second they adjust so you don't get too much. But I just thought, man, and it's electric. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
But the Helica thing, all I kept thinking about with that particular invention, my only thing that I know, I wasn't thinking the safety of the propeller. I was just thinking the vibration in the cabin of that thing and the noise would have been, and it wasn't particularly well equipped for speed, but the noise and vibration would have just killed you.
I mean, it's effectively sucking itself forwards, right?
Yes.
It's got to. So it's just blasting all of that air onto you. Like, what is that? And back in those days, they weren't airtight cabins. That would have been awful.
Yeah.
I mean,
nice idea, but.
And then, you pick up a couple of stone chips here and there, a few bugs.
Oh, imagine we're not
goes
talking
out of balance.
You get off of the main city fair, if that's even paved, and then you get onto a country road. Picture it. The carnage of someone with a horse and a buggy, and this is World War I. This is 1921. This is it's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why that was never going to work ever. Ever.
But they prototyped it. They made 30 of them. Like, it's never going to work, but they made 30 of them.
Yeah, and I'd love to have one because wow, piece of history and money in the bank sort of thing. But it was never ever going to work.
Isn't that a song? We're never ever getting. That's a Taylor Swift song. Back Together.
That's right. Yeah, Taylor Swift. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any chance Taylor Swift would ever own one of those.
You never know. On that note, it's time to pack everything up. This is a Podaholiks podcast of POWERWORKS. Glenn Power from POWERWORKS Automotive. We're coming to you from the Rove Hotel downtown in Dubai in the podcast studio. You want to find us? Podaholiks with a K at gmail.com. Send us an email. Love to hear from you. Podaholiks, www.podaholiks.com. Just not with a K, just put a K in there. And find us on the socials the same way. Hope you enjoyed it, and do let us know what you think. Give us a rating however you're listening to us, and we'll talk to you again really soon. You're listening to Podaholiks.